Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining the Redington session today. Today's topic we have from Symantec, and we have Fred who will be presenting. Fred, would you be able to share your screen? Yes, that's perfect. I can see it
So my
now.
name is
Yes, the topic would be data loss prevention, protecting your information reputation from Symantec. And Fred, our pre-sales consultant, will be taking you through the entire session. Fred, over to you.
okay. Thank you. So as I was saying earlier, I hope you had a lovely weekend, and thank you for joining the session. Today I will be taking you through data loss prevention and the importance of data loss prevention and why you should be considering Symantec data loss prevention. So let's start with what is data and why is it considered the new oil? Uh, Data is what drives our businesses. For example, most companies want to know the statistics, or they have for the sales departments, they have their customer databases, who to contact, who is the influencers in these organizations. And this helps our businesses become more intelligent and to move forward. Data has become very important, just the way oil has been important in the past few years. So we need to understand, first of all, where is our confidential data? Why is it important to know where our confidential data is? Number one, we have requirements nowadays, compliance requirements like PCI, DSS, SOX, ISO, HIPAA, and depending on which industry you're in, you face different compliance methodologies. Two, we also want, since data is important to organization, we do not want our data falling into the wrong hands, especially our confidential data. So in our organization, where is our data? Mostly it is on our file servers, it is in our databases, it is in our emails. Like most organizations, for them to be able to communicate, they usually use email as the official communication tool. Also, our data is also with our employees, in USB drives, in collaboration platforms, like for example, Dropbox, Google Drive, and so forth. It's also with our employees. Nowadays, employees use their own devices. For example, you probably accessing your emails also via phone, or probably you have other data corporate partner to a vendor or even to a distributor. So sometimes when you move with most, especially salespeople, they like to move along with their contacts. So since your organization people have been moving around in this industry, yeah, even your competitors now have information about you and your data. So we need to understand how safe is our confidential data and the impacts of this data leaking. So the impacts to the organization, number one, is loss of reputation. Especially reputation is very important, especially in the banking sector or insurance sector. How would you feel, for example, if you know that your account details are not in safe hands? If you lose trust in your bank, you will not bank with them. You look for another bank, for example. And also, even just even whatever industry you're working on, it works on trust basis. If guys know that you cannot protect their data, they will not be willing to work with you. And that reputation loss also leads to now loss of revenue. If people are not working with you, you will lose a lot of business deals, so you lose a lot of money. Another impact is productivity loss. For example, if there is a data breach or any breach in your organization, you'll spend a lot of time trying to remediate this loss of this data loss or data leak, and you'll end up spending a lot of time rather than doing what you're supposed to do on a daily basis. So that is productivity loss. Then you'll face legal issues. As I said, for example, most of these compliance methodologies will either you'll get taxed, or you'll also get law. 5 p.m. and I want to go home. What will I do? I'll try probably to upload this file to a for example, Dropbox. Once I upload it, when I go home, I go and try to work on it from home. So sometimes an employee wants is really means good for the company, but he shares the sensitive data to an unauthorized data repository, which might lead to data loss. Okay. Right now, I'm sure you have third parties who usually work with and collaborate with, like your vendors. You collaborate with also your employees, and not just employees. I'm saying with your customers, and even your customers collaborate with you. For example, if you deal with security for your end customer, they share with you logs, they share with you some information about their organization so that you can be able to work together. Sometimes you have even credentials for their firewalls, credentials for their DLP solution, and so forth, because you are the third parties. Then there's a rapid increase in mobile devices, which is defeating all the parameters. So, unlike before, whereby everything used to be in the perimeter, controlled within the firewall, nowadays your organization, you guys probably have emails on your phone. Probably you have some of the data even in other devices like your home devices. Deal with credit card, you must uh, you must comply to PCI DSS before you're given the permission to do that. So how do you protect your confidentiality? Is it on the endpoint or is it on the storage systems? You can't protect what you do not see. So first of all, you need to discover. So for example, are your employees sending the sensitive data to third parties? And if they're sending it to third parties, are they authorized? Also, if they're sending it even internally, these files internally, who are they sending it to? For example, financial records or payment, for example, payroll information. This is not supposed to be public information. It's supposed to be only between the HR and the employee. So is someone in the HR trying to leak this information to other people, which might destabilize even the organization? So we need to monitor this and see how information is being handled. Then lastly, after we have understood our data and how it's being handled, now we want to enforce. This is where we do now the prevention and the protection. So you're stopping sensitive information from going to people who have no use with that data, who are unauthorized to get that information. So with Symantec, you do not only prevent, but you also educate our users. Later on, I'll show you that demonstration that if data has been blocked from going to some user or from being copied to a drive, you get a notification there and it explains to you why it has been blocked, which policy it has violated, so the user cannot wonder why this is not functioning, and you reduce the support cases. Guys do not call IT saying that I sent an email in this sense. Apart from what is available or globally known, let's say, for example, credit card details, which is known by everyone in the world, or PII information. Apart from that, you can be able to even customize to identify your financial records, marketing plan, offers you a wide range of protection. We do protection over the cloud and mobile. We do protection over endpoint. We do protection over the network and storage. By cloud, I mean, for example, we integrate with Dropbox, Google Drive. Sorry, we have APIs that use integration so that you can be able to block sensitive information from being sent to those boxes. For who are coming to your offices, and you cannot deploy a DLP agent on those third parties. What you do is you integrate it with the proxy, and if this user wants to send it, for example, via the internet using HTTP, public shares where everyone can be able to access. We scan them and see if there is any sensitive information in those file shares. We are able to now not just identify, but once we identify that this is a public file share, we remove that sensitive document there and put it in a private file share where only a few people can access, or the authorized people can access. However, we leave a note so that if someone wants to get that, goes back to that location, the public file share, and clicks on that document, he can be told that this file has been removed from this storage because of this and this reason, and it has been moved to this other folder. Please contact support if you want to get access to that. Another advantage of Symantec DLP is because we do the right remediation and respond fastest. Number one, the right remediation, I mean, we resolve, we enforce, and we notify. To the right person, I mean, you get the right responder. For example, if an email is being sent to an email by let's say, for example, John is an employee, he's sending an information data to Larry, who is from the third party. Then John's boss is called Jen. Immediately, John sends that information. First of all, he gets a notification that it has been blocked. Then also, Jen, who's John's boss, will also get a notification. Probably to have a lot of false positives. Then the right action is whereby you can be able to release something from quarantine with just one click. Then the right metrics, so that, for example, you have things like you can be able to write notes or justifications on why you allowed that data to go to a third party, so that later on, if the auditors come, you can be and ask you why was this data sent to third party, you can be able to pull out these reports and show them for auditing purposes. So how is the architecture of this solution? Number one, you'll have an enforced server. The enforced server is more like the brain of this solution. So here is where you can get the reports, you can get the incident reviews, you can customize the policies, and it also comes with custom policies. Beneath it is an Oracle database, which is mandatory. This helps us in storing the information so that the enforce can be able to use it. Apart from the enforced server, which offers you the single plane for the single plane to view your reports and do the customization, you have different servers, the detection servers. So you have the network discovery or the network protect. You have the cloud services for email. We have the cloud prevent for Microsoft Exchange, so you can be able to integrate with Microsoft, not Exchange, but Office 365. You can be able to connect with your third-party cloud services using our connector APIs. You have an endpoint prevent server and endpoint discover server. You have a network prevent for email, network prevent for web, and the network monitor. All of these detection servers can either be virtual or appliances. However, for the network monitor, it has to be a device. You cannot have it as a virtual appliance. Also, the enforce, you can have it as a virtual appliance. Then you have different agents. So for like your endpoint will have an agent. For network, for example, network prevent for web, you have to integrate it with your web proxy, and it has to support a protocol called WCCP. For network prevent for email, you have to integrate it with your MTAs. And the third-party cloud applications, you'll just use APIs. And for cloud, especially, use Elastica, which is our CASB solution. So how does Symantec DLP rank in terms of DLP? So you can see we are number one in most of the third-party wider scope. We're not just thinking about having a DLP solution. We're thinking about things like encryption. If you have a laptop and your laptop has been stolen, if it has no encryption in it, then data again has been lost and can be shared with a third party. All I need is just to remove that hard disk and put it on another machine, and then there'll be data loss if I'm, for example, your competitor. So Symantec had also have encryption solutions which integrate with our DLP. Our Symantec DLP has a lot of reference sites. And let's say, for example, in Kenya, we have Equity Bank, Office of Auditor General. In Uganda, we have Bank of Uganda. In Nigeria, Central Bank of Nigeria. These are some marketing strategies, financial records, mergers and acquisitions. And depending on organizations, each organization and each department has things that are sensitive to them. This is the end of my presentation, and I'd like to take a few minutes to do a demonstration for you guys to be able to understand and see. I understand that sometimes seeing is believing, so let me jump into a quick demonstration so that you can be able to understand. As I explained earlier, we have in our DLP, we have an enforced server, and we have, which is the brainchild whereby we do the reporting, the incident reviews, custom policies, and out-of-box policies. So this is the enforced server. For my demonstration purposes, I'll have two machines for two endpoints. So one is endpoint 10 and endpoint 7. I created a firewall here. I did information-centric tagging, and there are different DLP servers which are required. I different files. So one of the files, like bingo winners over here, is not really sensitive information. This does not contain sensitive information. It's just a small database which can be sent to everyone. Then using classification tools, I created and tagged the different documents that I have. As you can see, I have customers for processing, which is high severity. This contains sensitive information. Let me just open it so that you can be able to see and understand. So as you can see, it has account IDs, it has the first, last names, it has the account numbers, driving license details, it has the phone, email addresses, which are dummy email addresses I just created. It has the phone numbers, postal address, etc. So you can see this is sensitive data. So in this use case, I have created three different users. I have created Joe, who is the insider in our organization, is one of our users. Then I have Larry. Larry works from another organization. Then apart from Larry, I also have Jen, who's Joe's boss, and I have the IT department. So let's go. So Larry, sorry, let me go to Joe. I'm at Larry's email, sorry. So our organization is acme.com, and this is our user. He wants to send it to Larry. So he sends a document, he attaches the document. Let's use bingo winners, which, as I showed you earlier, it does not have any sensitive information. And let's put a timestamp. In East Africa time, this is 10:25. Subject, let's call it bingo, and sends it. So let's send receive. Still in outbox. Let's give it a few minutes so that you can go to. Just a minute, let me just confirm. The network settings are okay. Okay, it's failing. Let me just give it a few minutes. Probably there's something. Oh, it says the email server is down. So let me just check the email server before. Okay. Let's give it a few minutes to boot so that you can be able to see what will happen. I noticed the issue was the email server was off, so I had to turn it on. Okay, now that it is on, you can see here Larry has received an inbox. And when you check in the inbox, Larry has received an email. Just a minute. So this is our email which is sent at 10:25, and you can see it here. Larry has received it. So now let's go back to Joe, who's our corporate user, and we try and send an email to Larry now containing sensitive data. The first email we are allowed to send because it didn't contain any sensitive data. Now let's send this time customers for processing, high severity, which the document I showed you that had sensitive data to Larry. So give it a timestamp of 10:30. Just a minute. My machine is my VMs are misbehaving, so let me give it a few minutes. So let me just, as I wait for it to load, let me just explain what will happen. Since I'm sending sensitive data to a third party, what I'm expecting to get is the email not to go, and I'll receive a notification. Just a minute. Hope now to be faster. Okay. So subject, we say test 3. Send. Let's do a send receive. And you see Joe has received an email, and this time it's an alert. Let's open the alert. So we do not just block the customers from processing email. What we do is Joe receives an email saying that the email, the test subject test 3, was blocked from going to Larry because it violated this policy. Then for more details, go to here to get more details. And if you feel like this email has been wrongly blocked, send it to IT security. We have connected the IT's machine. Just a minute as it loads. Okay. So the first thing, let's go to the emails and see what is happening. So we see from IT security, you can be able to receive we receive an email today. Let's just open the email. Has been violated, and how many times this rule has been violated. We get this type of information from the IT department. Then also, sorry for that, just a minute. I closed the virtual machine instead of the tab which I wanted to close. So I meant to close this. Also, you can see from the IT security, the administrators, they have an email on quarantine. You can come in the quarantine, check the email, and you can see the test party, and this is what it contains. From the dashboard level, the IT administrators can log into the dashboard. Then come under incidents, network incidents, HTTPS incidents, and they can check the summary, but this time we're looking for at all incidents. And you can see the incident, which was our test 3 here. We click on that incident to get more details. So from here, you can see this was test 3. This was the attachment being used here. Let me scroll down so that I can show you the more details on this. I can open the original text if I want to open it. The employee who was sending it is called Joe. Joe's boss is called Jen. So I can see which department Joe is, who's the sales manager. I can see it from this portal. So what do I do as an IT administrator if I find this request for this happening? So what I do is I can decide that, most of the times this data does not. If you want to see someone, so the DLP will pull this information from the AD because you have integrated it to the AD. And if your AD trees have been updated correctly, the forest and the trees have been updated correctly, we can be able to pull who's the boss of that department, and we can be able to send that the notification to the boss in that department. You can edit this information if you want to edit it, if need be. So in this case, since I don't want to go in depth, I'll just say okay and advance. It's a bit, my internet is a bit slow, so the VMs are lagging for some seconds. When I go back to my emails and I do a send receive, you can see Jen, who's John's manager, has now received a notification. Let me click on Jen's email, and you see she received that notification saying that there's a possible violation of data protection policy, and this is the email. Dear Jen manager, this is a notification that there may be a violation of the company you're using, so as you can be able to understand. So the enforced platform, you'll get a web console like the one I'm logged into. We have the homepage, where the homepage you get more of your summaries. Just a minute. As you can see, it's HTTPS, then SNMP, then HTTP. You can get which policies have been violated the most and the count. You can be able to see the endpoint violated was the America PCII policy. In the manage is where now I can be able to create my policies, and not just manage my policies, also I can be able to manage my different VM. Like as you can see here, these are pre-built policies. Uh, and apart from these pre-built out-of-box policies, you can be able to create your own new policies. So you can come here and create a new policy, or you can be able, if let's say you had an old DLP version which you are using, Symantec DLP, you are allowed to import the DLP policies which you had earlier. So you can be able to import those policies here. As you can see, it's a wide range of policies. We have the HIPAA, we have Sarbanes-Oxley, we have APJPII, resumes, whatever you want to, you just come, and if you want to enable the policy, you just sorry, you just enable the policy which you want to enable. Because this server is a bit slow, let me just go back to the endpoint and just show you two other use cases. The first use case I've shown you is email. Joe wants to send an email to Larry who's not authorized. So let's try two other use cases. What if Joe has noticed that it's not that these emails are not going through? So he wants to send this data by USB. So let me show you a use case where Joe is trying to send the information. Just a minute to check something, if my internet is slow or it's just my servers where I've hosted them. Okay, it's my servers which are a bit slow. Give it some time to connect. Kindly bear with me. My servers are a bit slow, but at the end of the day, they'll still work. So the use cases I want to show you is Joe trying to send send information, one via flash disk. It will show you if it's sensitive information, it will be blocked and you'll receive a notification as a pop-up. Then the other is Joe trying to encrypt this information. We all know that encryption, once a document has been encrypted, it can easily bypass the firewalls, your DLP solutions, your proxy, because unless they decrypt that document, it's hard to read it. So if a user encrypts this document and puts in a password, one, if you have a firewall, most of them will try to brute force, and if they fail to brute force it, they'll just send it because they cannot see what is inside. So let's say Joe wants to encrypt that file before he sends it. What the protection that will happen is that the endpoint agent will only allow that sensitive information to be accessed by specific applications only. If you try to use another unauthorized application, it is supposed to block it. Let me try resetting this VM and see if it will be able to work. They're taking a bit of time, but kindly bear. Meanwhile, as we wait for the VMs, maybe I can, if there are any questions, I hope you have written them on chat so that I can go through the questions. And maybe I can start answering those questions. Whereby we block Dropbox, someone trying to copy to Dropbox. We can also create policies whereby if you do it on a public file share, and then we do a scan, if it's a sensitive information has been found in the public file share, we can remove it, add a note, and put it in a sensitive location. When you go back to that location which you had shared it earlier, and double click on it, you'll get a note saying that this document has been moved to a secure location. And different types of notification, different types of customization according to. Since there are no questions, I think I can end this presentation. Thank you for joining today. I will send this presentation to all of you guys so that you can at least go through it. Thank you for your time and have a lovely day ahead and a lovely week too. Bidi, I think you can take it from there.